G'day, my name is Lachlan Watt and music is my life. The guest of this week's podcast has been promoting heavy music in Australia for even longer than I have. I'd consider her one of the unsung heroes of the Australian music media landscape. Her name is Janine Morcos, and I first met Janine when she was the publicist for Roadrunner Records Australia. From there, she went on to work for Soundwave Festival and these days runs her own freelance firm, Dallas Does PR. Do a lot of work with Janine at Destroyer Lines. She does a lot of our campaigns there, including all of the festivals like Knotfest and Good Things. She was really quite influential in convincing me to actually start this podcast after hanging it up at Triple J. And as such, she agreed to actually be the guinea pig for the very first episode. And of course, I didn't have my shit together. Nothing worked properly. The recordings were all corrupted, unusable. So we've given it another shot, and that's what this week's episode is. Janine is an incredible person with a fantastic laugh. We've become great friends over the years and spent many late nights together getting silly. We'll be talking about all of that and more in this chat. And speaking of late nights, it's 3 a.m. right now, so I want to just get this done. Let's get into it. My name is Lachlan Watt, music is my life, and now I give you Janine Morcos.
Oh, did you record that?
Yeah, I've been recording.
Oh my
Sorry.
God, Lachlan. No.
We can totally cut all that.
Cut that out.
Yeah. But yeah, do appreciate you taking the time to do this again. Sorry to put you through the humiliation ritual of being the test dummy
It's all right.
for it. And then, oh shit, that didn't work. Let's do it again because I need an episode this week.
That's all right. I'm happy to be your guinea pig time and time again.
It got me thinking in because I've had a few disasters over the years, but in your career as a publicist, like every now and then, obviously, you know, a recording fucks up or something gets deleted and someone has to redo something. Like, what's the biggest disaster you can think of that's happened in that regard where you've had to rearrange an interview for someone or something?
It was with you.
Oh, which one was it?
2 interviews, actually.
Oh, yeah?
One with Lamb of God and one with Des Fafara. Yeah, they accidentally got deleted from the board, the Triple J board. So
love that.
yeah, sorry, Lachlan.
I was kind of hoping that there was be something a bit bigger than me, but
It's quite fitting to start off with that, right?
Yeah, how humiliating. We're both going through the humiliation ritual.
And then the first time with me.
Yeah. Love it. I think I might have told you this story once before, but I had Marta Defiled and Boris the Blade on Triple J one time and they were doing an Australian tour.
Yeah.
And they came in on their day off to record like a guest host thing, and the sound was coming up on the board. So I thought it was all good, but it was someone was in the studio before me from ABC Sport recording footy stuff from the TV. And so I saw the monitors moving and thought, oh yeah, cool, we're good to go.
Oh no.
And it was just, I'd recorded sport off the TV for the 2-hour guest host thing that we recorded, and we'd already made the announcement, hey, tune into Triple J tonight, this is happening. And then after they've left, I have to sheepishly go, hey guys, is there any chance a couple of you can come back and quickly have another go at this? And they were pretty upset about it, but
Did they redo it?
yeah. It was
Pretty
It was
lucky.
way shitter the second time around though.
Oh yeah, because you don't have that that vibe that you do the first time around, because you kind of already know what you're going to say, and it just doesn't seem as exciting as doing it the first time round.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping we can avoid that for this chat. What's been happening since the first attempt at this podcast? What have you been up to?
When did we do that? Was it before Knotfest?
Yeah, it was early March, I think.
Far out. So it would have been after Knotfest.
No, it would have been early Feb then.
Oh.
Yeah, because
Yeah, I think so too. Me, I've been doing a lot more of healthier balance in my life and work than I have in previous years, which has been really nice. Obviously, after we spoke the first time, I was on Knotfest, which was great, a really big success. Had quite a few other tours, releasing the Ghost record, which came in at number 1. Sleep Token record, number 1.
There was a new Ghost record?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Lachlan.
Yeah, I'm completely detached. It's been nice. What was it the other day? There was something that popped up and I was like, oh, shit. See, I can't even remember.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the Ghost record came out in it's like mid-April. But yeah, their first number 1 in the country and a lot of parts of the world, which is fantastic for them.
That's insane. Congrats.
Thank you. And then Sleep Token 2 weeks later. So it's a good time for heavy music.
What's working a Sleep Token campaign like, seeing as you can't even do any interviews or anything?
You have to be creative.
What did you come up with?
A lot of it was marketing, to be honest. Grades did so much cool stuff. There were like pop-up stores with exclusive merch. Even the way they were releasing the singles with their teasers was really creative and engaging with the audience. The first 3 singles were all different from each other. The second single being like an R&B sort of heavy tune, which was quite different for them. And yeah, just being a little bit more creative than, trying to get access with an artist that does not do interviews to begin with. And props to them to be able to sustain their career to this point and not do interviews, But yeah, it's a great result for them, first number 1 in the country and with massive first week sales is a huge achievement for a band like that.
How many units did it actually move?
It was well over 11,000 first week. Still, like, we're 3 weeks in and they're still top 5 in the RE chart. So
that doesn't really happen often for heavy artists. They're usually in first week and then they're out.
Well, most artists really.
Yeah.
You go in hard for your first week and then you drop out of top 20 or stay in the top 20. But, first week, number 1, second week, number 2, this week, number 4. It's pretty huge.
Nice.
So, yeah, so just been working on releases and just having some downtime, which has been nice, and just come off Offspring and Simple Plans tour as well.
So what's it like? What's a day in the life like when you're on tour as a publicist? Because most publicists don't go on tour. It's like an email job generally, but you're always very hands-on and on ground with most of these big things you do.
Yeah, for the arenas and the festivals, absolutely. It makes sense for me to be on ground. With the festival side of things, it's quite chaotic. Facilitating and organising, backstage area for media to do face-to-face interviews with the artists, getting artists to approve the media outlets, scheduling times, getting the setups ready, so building the tents, what's required inside the tents, to, facilitating all the on-ground interviews on the day, facilitating specific photo stipulations and requirements for certain artists. Not all artists have the same stipulations as first 3 songs, no flash in the photo pit, to getting your guest list off in the morning to make sure that, the box office person has everyone's names to give the photo passes to or the media, passes to. So that sort of thing. Lots of running around. Yeah.
Or driving around on a buggy.
Yeah, my favourite pastime.
What's the most fun big tour you think you've ever been a part of?
It's too many. Soundwave days were great. Those days were awesome, and even back then the media landscape was so different to what it is now. And even touring back then was a lot different to now. So you had a lot of things to do in between the festival dates with artists,
Yeah. What do you think the biggest difference about touring then and now is?
Well, obviously, you're getting artists in and out pretty quickly. There's not as many days off in between as I think back then, you know, the big day out used to be called the big day off because artists had so many days off in between, you know, their side shows and the festival dates. And they were here for, you know, a couple of weeks, as opposed to, say, a week. You get them in and out. So you either, now we do side shows, you know, before the festival dates or after the festival dates, because the festival dates are back to back. So, you know, in and out pretty quickly. But back then, yeah, it was a little bit different. They were a bit spaced out.
And what's changed about publicity or running PR in the last 2 decades? Like, how would you describe the evolution of the profession and the landscape?
Where do I begin?
Yeah.
Obviously, streaming services weren't really a thing back then. How people consume music. Physical media was so big when I first started in PR. So, you know, we used to have 2 street presses in each city. Quite a few, you know, monthly magazines, mainstream websites and things like that. Whereas these days, we don't have that many print media. People consume music, and
we barely even have that much online media anymore.
I was just about to say that too, you know.
It's all just been funneled into social media
And podcasting, you know. Podcasting wasn't a thing back then, but it's such a huge platform now. So, and obviously radio landscape's changed a lot, which we all know about. We adapt to it, but it's not as easy now as it was back then.
Do you find you like less involved with more up and coming bands, I suppose, these days? It kind of seems like it's all sort of, the attention is maybe funneled to the top a little bit more, and bands kind of just need to do their own thing until they get to a certain level to even require a publicist these days.
I've always said that bands need to do the groundwork. You know, even back then, bands should do some of the groundwork, understand the ins and outs, the basic, you know, the basic PR that bands should be doing, and even also connecting themselves with media and influencers and tastemakers and building that relationship with them, you know, until they're ready to have strong enough material and some sort of touring behind them to engage in a publicist. Why would you spend all that money on a publicist when you can do some of that groundwork yourself and understand and manage your expectations as well when you do engage with a publicist? Because I think artists think, you know, you get your band together, you write some music, all of a sudden someone else can do it for you. It doesn't work that way. I certainly don't work that way. But also, I guess, you know, working with upcoming artists is a lot of work. It's so much harder to break a young emerging artist these days. You know, it takes a long time compared to what it used to be. And so we haven't really taken on upcoming artists in quite some time, because it just requires a lot of work, which also means having to fork up the money. And for me, that's not what it's always been about, you know. And we always work with artists and clients that we believe in, that we love, and that we know that we can deliver on our end.
Who do you think the last artist that you would classify as having broke or like kind of built up to that level might be?
God. It's a good question. I don't know. It's been a while. It's been great working with Make Them Suffer, having Alex in the band and seeing this new life in them.
I feel like they're finally getting their dues after all these years.
Oh, 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. I think Relica, last artist, I think from where they were with their EPs to then releasing their first full-length album, seeing their growth has been really amazing. Maybe I'd say Relica. Yeah.
What about the first? Like, what's the first artist that you remember kind of being like, holy shit, yeah, we just did that. Look at where you're at now.
Polaris.
Nice.
Yeah. Really proud of their journey. You know, I started working with them when they signed to Resist, and before they released the first album. And yeah, we really did make some waves on that record, which set them up to where they are now. So yeah, first band that comes to mind would absolutely be Polaris. Yeah.
I'm just trying to not repeat myself from last time here, but I guess it doesn't really matter. No one else has heard it, only us.
Yeah.
I'm just in my own head.
Well, these are things we did not touch on the last time.
So. I thought we did. Or I don't know. I was going to talk about how I didn't really believe in Polaris the first time I was kind of exposed to it. I just thought it was like, yeah, this is solid, worthy of a radio play, but I didn't expect it to blow up like it did. I was just like, it's another metalcore band.
I remember this. We've had this conversation before.
Yeah, on the first attempt of this, I think.
Yeah, maybe. Oh no, we have spoken about it prior to that. So,
yeah, it's crazy. Just didn't expect that to happen. Now they're just massive tour in Europe with Slipknot.
It's pretty great. They've always been a band that have always, planned their 6 months ahead, 12 months ahead, that sort of thing. Be quite particular with how they plot their touring, how to grow their touring. To start from, the first time I saw them play was Northcote Social Club, to a sold out 300 capacity room, or whatever the size room that is, to, on the last album cycle, to seeing them play to a packed Horton Pavilion. Bananas, But props to them because they put in the hard work.
You've put in quite a lot of hard work. Let's take us back to the start. Because I've first ever interacted with you when you were working for Roadrunner Records Australia, back when that actually existed. And that hasn't existed for probably like 10 or 15 years at this point. Or at least 10. It's been a long time.
10 or 12? Maybe? I can't even remember the year that Warner took over. It's definitely over 10 years. Probably 12, maybe?
Yeah, it seems insane to just even remember that there was once a time where a band could sign to Roadrunner Records Australia. That was a thing.
I know. I know. Roadrunner was the best. I loved working for Roadrunner. It was such a great label. It was family. It was home. You had those intimate relationships with artists as well as your peers around the globe. And they really gave a shit about the artists, And it was such a solid, strong brand. Even before I started working for Roadrunner, in my teens, getting into heavy music, Roadrunner was always that brand that you always knew about, and the artists that they signed, all the new metal acts that I loved listening to back then. I really loved that culture that they kind of had as part of the brand.
Yeah, I thought I was the sickest cunt when I had like Roadrunner Records stickers on my high school textbooks and things.
Yeah. Didn't we all? Yeah.
I think I've got a Roadrunner Records CD wallet at home somewhere for all my pirated music back in the day.
So good. You were at Death Before Dishonor, right?
Yeah.
Were you doing your columns?
Eventually, yeah, but I think it was, I don't know when you came into the picture. I think actually, when I was on the webzines, it was Bob.
Yep.
And then, you and Gianna.
Yep. Yeah.
What happened to Bob? Where's he at these days?
Don't know. We lost touch with him a fair few years ago. Yeah. He, honestly...
Hopefully he's retired and out of this game.
I think
getting
he has.
some peace.
Yeah, I think he has. And, I owe my PR career to him. You know, when I started working at Roadrunner, did not have a PR experience whatsoever. He taught me the whole ropes.
So how did you get your foot in the door in the first place?
I was working at Sony Music at the time as a merchie, and a friend who I used to work with at a booking agency in Sydney when I still lived in Sydney had sent me the job ad of the coordinator role. It was like only 2 days a week. And she's like, apply for this job. It's perfect for you. I've already put in a good word. So I sent him my resume, and the person who I reported to at Sony Music, I had him down as a referee. And I didn't know at the time, but his wife used to be John Satterley, who was the MD of Roadrunner at the time, assistant many, many years ago. So they already had that sort of connection. So he also put in a good recommendation, and obviously they thought I had the chops to do the job. And so I started as a coordinator, and, you know, within a few months I went to full-time. And then after a year or so, they promoted me. And then a few years later after that, promoted me again, and the rest is history.
And so had you already decided that, you know, music was going to be your life at that point?
No, it was when I was 14 when I started playing drums.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And just, yeah, really heavily getting into grunge music, alternative, metal, new metal. I knew back then music was where I wanted to be. And for some reason I always wanted to be a publicist. Who knows why? But it was something I was always really fascinated with.
You're more excited about the possibility of that than being a drummer?
Yeah. I had no career in drumming, let's be honest.
When was the last time you sat down behind a drum kit?
I was 21. So 21 years ago.
You think that'll be the last time that ever happened?
Oh, yeah. People have tried.
Yeah. What, did you actually ever play in bands?
Yeah. I was in an all-female fronted band in high school called Femme Fiend. And we used to
Femme
play
Fiend.
Femme Fiend. And we used to play in the school assembly, and we had some gigs outside of school, and we used to love playing covers like Veruca Salt and Hole and Nirvana and Alanis Morissette. Yeah, so that was my first proper band. I was in a band with my brother and another friend. We were called Spleen.
These names are fantastic. I need to track down some Femme Fiend footage.
No, you'll never find it. You'll never find it. It was way before the internet was a thing. So
you don't have any old VHS sitting around somewhere for you?
Probably do, you know.
Yeah.
I know I definitely have photos on a floppy disk. Is that showing
like
my age?
The most low resolution photos possible.
Is it showing my age?
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was in bands, but I always knew drumming wasn't for me. I was an okay muso, but I didn't have the chops to be able to do it as a career.
Do you remember the point of like deciding I'm not going to pursue drums anymore?
Yeah, it's when I finished high school, and I did music in high school. And I had to play two songs. Well, I remember playing 2 songs on drums for my HSC. One was Soulfly, the other one was Slipknot, which is quite ironic, being able to work with those artists later on in my career. And I finished high school, and for me, that was it. I went into studying at JMC, music business, and I knew the business side of things was where my heart was lying towards rather than being a musician.
So you were full double kicking.
Yeah.
I need to see this somehow one day.
With my short spiky hair.
I'll just
my Doc Marten boots and my dog collar.
I'll bring my e-drums that I hardly ever play anymore around one day. Well, next time I come around, and just be like, all right, Show us what you got.
Yeah.
See if you still
It's
got
funny
it.
because there've been artists who, you know, during sound check would be like, get behind the kit. I'm like, nah. They're like, you never forget. I'm like, I'm embarrassed. It's been 20 years, you know? No.
I feel like you can keep a beat or you can't. I'm sure it'll be okay.
This is true. It's true. It's just trying to find your feet again. It's like riding a bike. I'm shit at riding a bike, so what do I know?
I saw this meme today that just made me lose it. Like, I don't know if it was posted seriously or if someone had posted it trying to be ironic, but it was like a real boomer meme that just was like, had a picture of a bike. It said, this is an antidepressant, then a picture of some pills and said, this is shit.
That's pretty good.
Okay. On your bike, cure your depression.
Yeah.
So, what do you have on your schedule for the coming months as a publicist?
Well, we've got some tours that have been announced already that we're working on. So, got the Short Stack tour that kicks off this week. And it's the Make Them Suffer regional tour. And then, God, what do we have? We've got Sabaton coming out, the Ghost Inside tour, Imminence tour, and that's it. That's been announced. And then in terms of albums, we've got Baby Metal out in August, and we've got Rise Against. Some of the big ones that we've got coming up, with more to be announced. So, yeah. So we're in a kind of period now where we're just setting ourselves up for the second half of the year, which you don't usually get the time to be able to do. So it's been really nice to be able to have some breathing space, to be able to start setting up for a busy second half of the year, rolling into next year as well.
You have to keep a lot of secrets in your work. You enjoy doing that? Does it get stressful sometimes, having to keep things under wraps? Or I guess you'd be pretty used to it at this point.
Oh, you get used to it. It's just so easy to just not say anything. You know, I think people hire you for a reason. They hire you because they trust you. They hire you because of your loyalty. And regardless of how exciting something is, they know that you're not going to talk out of school. So, yeah, a lot of the times I keep things so secret that I forget that I had already known. And then it gets announced. I'm like, oh, yeah, I've known this for ages. You just automatically forget, you know. Yeah, you could be working on something for a couple of months before an announcement's made. And then when it's out there and people get super excited, you kind of forget how long you've been sitting on that news for.
Have you ever really blown it, put your foot in it and blabbed out something you shouldn't have? That?
Not really. Not really. It's always like hard. I think in the beginning it was always hard with festival lineups and people wanting dirt out of you. And you're so excited, you want to share information, but you know you just have to keep your lips tight. So no, there's never really been a time where I've
always been a pro.
Well, I try to be. Well, it's like even when we worked on the first Not Fest together, and we were setting up our coverage, and you were like asking for band names. I wasn't even giving it to you.
You're like, Slipknot, that's all you get.
Yeah, and they were already announced. So.
Yeah, I don't have the same secret keeping ability as you. That's why it's
loose lips.
always been my job to spread the news.
Yeah, loose lips, Lachlan. Say that 3 times with an Invisalign in your mouth.
Loose lips, Lachlan.
Yeah, I won't attempt it.
What advice would you give to someone that was considering following in your footsteps and trying to build a career in music, PR, publicity? Don't
do it. No, I'm joking.
it's funny. I realized the other week, like the name of this podcast. Every time I've tried to explain it to like a guest or something, it's been kind of clunky.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, it's kind of positive and it's like kind of negative, like a bit of a double meaning sort of thing. And I think I finally clicked recently and I realized it's just a more specific way of saying fuck my life.
Yeah, pretty much. Why did I choose this path?
Yeah.
Why didn't I go in an easy career where you can make tons of money and it's 9 to 5? No. Look, I love what I do. And I think the reason why I love what I do is because I've surrounded myself with artists that I love and believe in, with clients that I love working with, and we work well together. And you get a sense of joy with the wins, you know? When you achieve something that is impossible and you've made it possible, that makes your job super rewarding. But getting into PR, I think my path is different to a lot of, I guess, traditional publicists, because a lot of them have degrees and have obviously studied journalism and have degrees and all that sort of stuff. I've got none of that. You know, I did study, but I was also been given an opportunity to work in the industry at such a young, early age before I could even finish my degree, that I chose the path of the work experience, you know. And back then I got my foot in the door and I started as a receptionist and I worked my way up and I made the connections, and obviously found, you know, a career in publicity, which I'm great at. I like to think I'm great at, but also having the right people along the way. But if you were to start, you know, a career in publicity, do some, you know, intern work, learn the basic ropes. You know, you want to learn the dirty work that that is not glamorous, but it's super important as part of a publicist role. So I think, you know, learning the ropes and making the connections out there with the right people and working with, aligning yourself with a company or with artists that you know that you can sell their stuff. You know, you don't want to be a metalhead working with a dance company or, you know, or working with R&B artists, because, you know, you're not going to be able to sell the artist to them.
It's not worth getting experience as a publicist unless like you genuinely believe in what it is you're promoting.
You have to.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you have to hustle hard. You have to hustle hard for your coverage. You have to be creative with your pitching, finding the right angles for those artists, what sets them apart. You know, you have to have some great communication skills where you can communicate with others and communicate, you know, what you're trying to get over the line and why, you know, that music director or editor should take a listen to the artist or want to cover your artist, because they get so many emails on a daily basis that you'll get lost in the mix. So, you know, you have to have some really strong communication skills. If you're a shy person and you're an introvert, it's probably not the right job for you, because you've got to be out there. You've got to be seeing people. You've got to be meeting people. You've got to, you know, communicate. And if they're not your strong points, then it's going to be a really hard job for you to succeed in.
What do you see the future like with evolution of your career? Like, do you have any goals left that you'd still like to tick off, or you think it kind of is just you're at the plateau now?
I get asked this question a lot, and I'm not a planner. I don't forward think. I guess because I live in the moment and enjoy the moment and enjoy what we're currently work on, that I don't, and we're obviously quite busy too, so you don't really have that time to kind of think ahead of what else is to come. I guess the biggest goal for me is to continue to spread awareness of heavy music to the mainstream world, you know, getting more acceptance and, you know, coverage in the mainstream world, I think for me is probably one thing I'd like to continue to achieve to a higher degree. Yeah.
Do you think it's more accepted you get now than it was when you started? Because I kind of always seem to feel like it sort of has its moments of like a new sort of wave of a new subgenre will kind of blow up and it'll get a little pockets of coverage and this and that, and then kind of it's sort of like wait until the next kind of wave of the next popular style of heavy music comes through and it sort of happens again and then backs off a bit.
It depends on the artist.
Yeah.
Like look at say for example, look at Speed. Look at their mainstream coverage.
Do they even have a publicist?
No, they do.
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, they do. But yeah, I think it comes and goes. It's not as consistent as, you know, we'd like it to be. But I do think we are, with whatever we've got left, we're doing the best we can. But I'd like to definitely, you know, we're definitely, you know, even like things like the projects.
Yeah, you've been getting a ton of artists. Well, not a ton, but quite a few. It's sort of a regular thing of
we're starting to have some really great leeway there where, you know, we've had, you know, I remember when we had finally got Bring Me the Horizon on there. That was like huge.
Was that the first time you got a heavy artist on the project or Channel 10?
No. I've had quite a few artists on the project. But for an artist like that, for an artist like Bring Me the Horizon, that was like a big deal. And then last year having Winston from Parkway on there. Yeah. And that was cool. So, yeah, just little things like that. And then even seeing how well it's been received afterwards is quite rewarding because you're like, yeah, knew this would resonate.
How do you actually, like, what's your strategy for getting those pitches over the line?
It's always about your angle, what you have to offer, you know, the interesting facts about the artist, you know, their career stat, and their reach, you know, but always having that right angle and the right time if it's, you know, they're releasing an album or if they're touring or whatever it is. But it's having the right pitch. You can't just go, hey, I've got Parkway Drive. Love to have them on. Do you have availability? It doesn't work like that.
What was the pitch for Parkway?
Oh, it was their global success. Being Australia's biggest heavy export. And also the arena tour was the biggest, you know, arena tour in the country, their biggest headline tour. And being an artist like that, playing those size venues was a first, you know, and the sheer size of their production was never done before. So there's all those sort of elements that incorporated into the pitch. So it took a while, but got over the line. Yeah.
And how do you find like the mainstream reaction to that kind of stuff?
It was pretty good. I even remember, you know, when we announced the Hellbound cruise and on ABC Breakfast TV that week, Sos was doing the Breakfast TV spot and she had it as part of in her music segment for the week. The Hellbound cruise was part of that package. And apparently afterwards, like they had a few texts from, you know, people watching it saying, hell yeah, you know, so stoked that you're covering heavy music on ABC Breakfast TV, which is really cool because you just never know. You just think it's the normies and, you know, the mums and all that sort of stuff that watches it. But no, it's a really big, diverse audience, and it's when you have those sort of reactions to those sorts of news that you realise that the audience expands far beyond that. So,
Are you excited to go and spend a week on, or how many days is it? 4 or 5 days on a?
I think 3 days. I'm not going on it.
You're not?
No.
How come?
I'm just not going on it.
Oh, we don't have to.
Also, I get seasickness, man. I'll be man overboard as soon as the boat leaves the dock. I'll be the one in the water just going, pick me up in 3 days. I don't want to be spewing for 3 days straight. Come on, let's be honest. And that's being sober. So there's always that element too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's on one hand it sounds like really exciting and fun, but then on the other it's sort of like I don't know if I could think of something much more terrifying than just being stuck on a boat for 3 days, like a festival you can't escape.
Yeah. And I'm an extrovert and an introvert, so my social battery can wear out pretty fast. So to try and escape and have some me time in between being around people, I would have a meltdown, to be honest.
Be screaming in a little tiny cell.
I'd go on I'd go nuclear, to be honest. I'm an Arab, what can I say? I'm fiery and feisty at the best of times.
You would not have a PR career for much longer after that?
No.
If we put you on the boat?
Yeah. Stick me on a boat and that'll be the end of me.
And see what happens.
Yeah. Someone take care of my dogs.
I dare you.
No, don't. We know it could be bad. Look, it's an awesome concept and I think it's so great, and the ship looks sick, and like the things they have on it and all that sort of stuff I think is great. And I think it's great to see that it sold out so quickly. You know, it just shows that there is a demand for something like that. It's something unique and different to...
You know, I couldn't believe like how fast it sold out, particularly because after I saw how much the tickets were and just the fact that there was so much lead time going up to it, I thought, oh, they must be sort of bracing themselves, or we must be preparing for like a long sort of process of getting this sold if it's getting announced this far in advance.
Yeah.
But
you just never know.
Yeah.
You never know if something's going to resonate or not. I think, you know, we've had these conversations before. We think lineups are super strong and they may not sell as well, or there are lineups where we're like, oh, this is okay. And then they sell the best. And we're like, are we out of touch? Just never know.
Yeah, like this prom queen tour, just the band was freaking out, like, oh, the rooms are too big, and then it was like, are they too small? And it's like, no, let's play it safe.
Yeah.
And then they just all sold out instantly.
So good.
And like everywhere except for I think Sydney is like the biggest venue they've ever played, will have ever played in that city.
Wow.
So yeah, you do never know, but I think it is definitely better to come in undershoot a little bit than overshoot.
Oh, 100%, because you won't set yourself up for failure. See, if you aim too high, it'll shoot you in the foot, you know? So you may as well play it somewhat safe and conservative and know that you can make some noise. You know, you'd rather something sell out super quickly and create that demand and that hype for whenever, if the artist was to ever do something down the track, then you've got that, you know, as your, you know, in your pocket as ammunition to go, well, this is our demand. Like, this is how much our fans want to see us, and you can continue to grow rather than go out too high and then not sell enough tickets and then you're begging online for people to buy your tickets. It's, you know, you'd rather aim low than aim too high.
It's never a good feeling when you walk into like an arena show and
It's half empty.
yeah.
It's grim.
Yeah, music is my life.
Yeah. In all forms.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, the ugly, we love it. It shapes us, right? Yeah.
You've been listening to many tunes lately? Anything that's got you excited?
I did listen to the new Miley Cyrus album the other day in the gym. Quite like that. That band Sleep Theory. I think they just released their album on Epitaph.
Never heard of it.
Oh, they're sick. I've been listening to that heaps at the gym. They're probably the only new music I've kind of really listened to outside of what we've been working on. I would like to spend more time listening to new music. I just never get around to it. You know? What about you?
I find myself listening to far less new music now than when I was at Triple J.
Yeah.
Sort of it just became, not that I don't enjoy listening to new music, but it became like once it's a bit of a a responsibility or a chore. Sort of takes the shine off things a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's been refreshing and nice. Like the new Rivers of Nile album.
Oh yeah.
I think it actually came out on Friday, and I think I was just like, because I'm sort of a bit more out of the loop now. I was sort of just didn't have that anticipation of like, oh fuck yeah, this album's coming out this week. I'm going to listen to it, and obviously didn't get like an advanced stream like I would have back in the day. But even I got sick of that. I sort of got tired of having everything in advance, and sort of ended up deciding that I preferred to kind of be in it with the excitement of everybody else.
Yeah.
But then I think it was a couple of days ago on Monday, I realized, oh shit, the new Rivers of Nile album is out, and listened to that and was like, this fucking rules.
Yeah. It's always nice when something surprises you and gets you excited again.
Like, yeah, I'm not surprised that I love it, but it was nice to be surprised by, oh, that's out.
Yeah.
I'm going to go listen.
Yeah. You haven't spent time sitting with it
Yeah.
before it's come out, and then it's come out and you just don't want to listen to it again. Yeah.
Yeah.
It gets a bit like that.
But yeah, I've also been listening to a bunch of the new Health singles. That's I say on one hand, I got tired of getting all the shit in advance all the time, but when it's a special band like that,
Yeah.
it's still pretty exciting.
Especially a band like Health, where you don't know what they're going to release. You don't know what they're working on. You don't know what direction they're going in, which is exciting. So you listen to it with fresh ears and you're like, fuck, this is great. They're a great band, but they keep pushing those boundaries sonically, which I find is what is exciting about those guys.
They're a very interesting bunch of fellows.
Yeah. We know it.
Yeah. What was your first impressions of meeting them?
So I first met them last year when you did the headline tour, and it was just a very short, casual, I guess, interaction. They both did just a couple of interviews backstage. But on Knotfest, it was really nice to get to know them a little bit more and just their different personalities. And I just thought they were fucking great. Just, yeah, super cool guys, so great to work with. They never complain. They're always on it with their interviews, And, yeah, they're just one of those bands that that just are going to keep doing cool stuff and are only just going to get bigger. I just feel like this is just the beginning for those guys. Especially with your tour, the tours that you've done with them, seeing, the shift from when they first came out many years ago and even being on Laneway to now shifting that audience to where they are now. I think it's super cool.
Yeah, it's an exciting trajectory For sure. Do you ever still get starstruck or like excited or nervous or just completely over the moon about any of the artists you get to work with, or is it all just kind of like, oh yeah, another day in the office?
I don't get starstruck. I feel like the one person I do remember being starstruck over was Lenny Kravitz when I worked with him at Roadrunner. And I never understood, why people thought he was so sexy and stuff. And then I met him, I was like, oh, I get it. He oozes sex appeal. This man is smooth. And I was like, ooh, I feel a bit nervous around you. But no, I don't get starstruck. For me, I just see them as people I work with. I have the utmost respect for. And I just see them as another human being. I get excited to see artists that I've worked with over long periods of time, and then you see them after a while, and it's really nice to, engage and bond and that sort of stuff. But in terms of being starstruck, not really, no.
You surely must have been a little bit starstruck at least a couple of times in the early days.
Oh, early days, yeah.
Do you remember anything in particular that stands out in regards to that?
I remember a time with Brandon Boyd from Incubus, Soundwave days. I was so in love with him when I was 14.
You're just weak at the knees.
Oh my God, I was driving a buggy, driving him in the buggy. It was so funny. They were playing Soundwave, and the tour manager at the time asked if they could be taken from the media compound to this meet and greet that they were having straight after. I was like, yeah, I've got a buggy. Didn't know how crazy I drive a buggy. And yeah, Brandon Boyd sat next to me, and all I remember was like, oh my God, Brandon Boyd is sitting next to me. He's staring at me, having a conversation. I'm trying to act cool and stuff and not trying to act like a maniac. And I was very starstruck. So
did you just blink and suddenly you're at the destination?
Pretty much. And I told him he was a legend, and he's like, no, you're a legend, and kissed my hand. I was like, oh my God, I'm going to die now. Yeah, Brandon Boyd. And actually, I've been starstruck by him on 2 occasions. I remember the first ever Soundwave I did when I was at Roadrunner, and it was at Eastern Creek Raceway, early days. And I was watching Killswitch Engage perform on the side of stage. I had a beer in my hand, and my bag was on the floor, and he came and just stood next to me. And I remember just like looking over and looking up, and he just looked down and smiled, and I just freaked out. And I literally grabbed my bag and walked off. I was like, I can't do this.
Can't do it.
Can't do it. Don't embarrass yourself, Janine. Don't embarrass yourself. So yeah, that's 2 accounts with Brandon Boyd. Yeah.
Right.
Have you had a starstruck moment? You would have had a few.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Oh, yeah, Adam D, Killswitch, when I took them into the HJJ.
I think I was probably more starstruck by Jesse Leach.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I remember I took him into the office to be like,
You
look at
showed
my
you photo?
poster I've got of you on the wall from the Alive or Just Breathing campaign.
That's right.
And he was just kind of like, cool. Nice to meet you, man.
He's one of my dearest friends. I love him dearly. Yeah. I do remember that day. Yeah.
Adam was off his head.
Oh.
I think they were all drunk, but he was in
No,
particular.
they weren't. It was just him. Jesse wasn't. Jesse was sober. But Adam had been drinking beers before I met up with him and before he got into the car, drinking in the car, and then was a maniac. And then I remember when we were getting in the lift, and he screamed so loud that there was an older woman sitting down at her desk that he scared the pants off. And I was just like, oh my God, what is wrong with you? But it's part of the fun, right?
What's the worst an artist has ever blown it on a PR day like that? that's, you know, I'm sure there's probably something that you can't tell, but if there's anything that...
Probably Dave Mustaine stories, but I won't share.
Yeah. You have to tell me later. It seems like almost everyone's got a Dave Mustaine story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
My Dave Mustaine story, it was nothing that really personally involved me, but I always thought it was just funny. I was at Hammersonic.
Yeah.
I think I just went over because it was a sick lineup, and I was staying at the same hotel as all the bands. And Dave Mustaine's at the breakfast buffet in Jakarta. And there's like 3 different types of eggs. Like there was like boiled and fried and scrambled, and he wanted his like somewhere in between or something. Like he had a specific desire for how he wanted his eggs, and he's there with his beanie on trying to like be all incognito, but he was just like really just doing the American thing of just like trying to loudly explain, like they don't understand English, but if you say it louder, they'll understand somehow.
Yeah.
That vibe, just trying to tell this poor lady at this breakfast buffet how she was meant to cook eggs specifically for him.
Oh, no.
And it was like, oh man, that's a Dave Mustaine event if I ever saw one.
Yeah.
And then the rest of Megadeth are all sitting together with their crew having fun, just chatting, and he goes and sort of sits at a different table by himself and chucks his hood up, and it's like a stinking hot day, and he's got a beanie and a hood on, just trying to hide after having this little weird egg tantrum, and just thought that was quite funny.
Quite fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sort of matched everything I'd heard about the man over the years.
Yeah.
Sue me, Dave.
Yeah.
Guess you can't sue Janine, but
I haven't said anything bad.
yeah, no. You're too much of a class act, unlike myself.
Oh, don't want it to bite me on the ass.
Yeah.
You know, I find, you know, I feel like my stories and what I've experienced are just, you know, funny adventures in my life to look back on, you know. Sometimes I look back at stuff and I think, God, I've seen and done some really weird shit, you know. I've met some weird ass people.
Yeah.
You know, I've been involved in some weird stuff, you know, but it's great. It's funny stories to share.
I just can sort of see that hallway in my peripheral vision, and I'm just thinking about passing out in a K-hole in the stairwell. Again.
I told someone that story the other day.
Who?
Oh, just a friend. But they were like, they were going, the part where I was like, oh yeah, and I had to take him to bed. And I was like, oh no, that's just not all. The story just kept going and going and going. But you waking up the next morning not realizing, like, I've had the best sleep. I'm like, did you know what you did last night? No. You're in a K-hole, bro. I found your level 3 curled up in a ball in front of, you know, my neighbour's door.
Yeah, so this is we're on level 2, so I dug myself up some stairs somehow.
He also apparently got the extinguisher and fire extinguisher and was raising it in the air, which is on the, you know, on camera in the hallway, which my property manager loves to tell me about, and how hilarious it is, and how hilarious it was to get me to, like, watching me getting you back into the lift to get you back into the apartment.
Good times.
I know, right?
Well, it's probably a fun place to end it if you've, unless you've got anything else you wanted to chat about.
Not really.
Thanks for sticking through it with me again, and thank you for everything you've done for me over the years. Thank you for encouraging me to get this podcast going. As much as it is a pain in the ass, it is very satisfying once the end result is done, and I do love having conversations like this.
Of course, and I love ya.
Love you too, Janine.
You're a great mate and always support you.
Sweet. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Music Is My Life. This podcast is self-produced by me, Lachlan Watt. I'd like to thank Audio Technica Australia for providing the high quality equipment that has made this possible, as well as Patrick Galvin at Hollowbone Studio for the design. The killer theme music that you are currently hearing was written by the legends TJ Cowgill and Sam Saljuki. Catch you in the next episode.